All right, everybody, welcome to our recap review of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. We don't have no clever name for this particular show, but who cares? It's a great show. I'm enjoying it. I know you guys are enjoying it. Joining us is, of course, Alex and his lovely wife, Addie. What's going on?
Hey.
Happy to be in the room.
Yes. Happy to have you here. Like I said, we've been wanting to break down the show. We were going to do, when I thought it was 8 episodes, we were going to break down two at a time, but we figured, oh wait, there's 9. So let's just do 3 at a time since schedules are crazy. Everybody knows, I'm tired of me saying this, but I'm with football right now. We're in the thick of things. Plus D23 is just a few days away. You guys is ultimate honeymoon super trip is in the horizon too. So
the timing works out
23
perfect because after episode 6 will be right before our trip, and then after episode 9 will be right, a week after we get back. So timing wise, it works well for us to record this way as well.
Absolutely.
Oh no, yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, so far, and before we get to the episodes, I kind of just want to ask you guys your overall first reaction thoughts in general, but it's a short show. It's 30 minutes an episode, and so to break them up in threes, I think it makes for easier listen. We're not. Well, I know I'm not as in depth with the comics as some other characters, but I have read a bunch of the comics growing up. So I am familiar with some of the past stuff. So, but not enough to carry a show. But
yeah.
No. So we never. But before we get to that, I want to welcome everybody back to YouTube. And like I said, our show, She-Hulk review. We will be discussing chapters or episodes 1 through 3, A Normal Amount of Rage, Superhuman Law, and The People versus Emil Blonsky. So before we get to that, what are you guys' first initial opinions, feelings, thoughts on She-Hulk?
So initial prior to watching any episodes?
Or just like just overall feeling, like, are you digging it? Are certain characters sticking out?
It's fun. It's got a good balance of being like really lighthearted. I think the most casual sitcom-y of any of the shows we've seen yet, while still I feel obviously from like the cameos we've seen and stuff, something that we look for a lot in the Marvel content is connections and moving the story forward. And I think it's doing both, or if not forward, backward, connecting the things we've already seen in movies and such. But yeah, there's connecting to other characters, other movies and TV, and moving the greater plot, if not just of the television universe, but also the cinematic universe, while being a straight up comedy.
Cool. Yes. I think it's a really fun, different take than the other Marvel TV shows have been, because it's kind of like a sitcom comedy first in a lot of ways. But I don't think like Loki is, or that WandaVision is. I also think it knows itself. It's doing the fourth wall. It is introducing, like, there's a lot of newness because we don't know She-Hulk from previous movies when she hasn't shown up anywhere else. So it is really neat, the approach they have, because right off the bat, like, minus a few aspects, everything else is new. Yeah. We keep forgetting it takes place in LA. So we're like, oh yeah, we are across the country. We're like, we're not in New York in this story.
Yeah.
We're in LA. So I think it's really fun, and there have been some moments and some jokes that have really been like, it's really self-aware. It knows what it's supposed to be, and I like that it still has the pacing of a Marvel show, but it feels more like a comedy than so far than kind of a more serious take like Loki keeps coming to mind.
Yeah, well said. This was a show when they did their first initial announcement of it. This was actually one of the ones I was looking forward to the most, just because of those earlier comics I read, and I was reading in the 90s, and it was as a lighthearted comic. Even reading when they reissued Howard the Duck, he had a big one of his big communications was with She-Hulk, in Jennifer
Oh,
Walters.
nice.
So yeah, so it was a nice little because he always was finding himself in trouble, so he needed her to bail him out. So
Yeah.
so I was really looking forward to this. Wasn't really familiar with the main actress Tatiana Maslany. I guess she was in Orphan Black. That's a show that I've never really gotten into, but I've wanted
Yeah.
to. But she's very kind of like the young actress that played Kamala Khan, just a very breath of fresh air, somebody new, and just a very pleasant character, I think.
Yes.
And, then, of course, her paralegal best friend, Nikki, played by Ginger Gonzaga. Holden Holloway, her new boss lawyer, played by Stephen Coulter. And, of course, the jerk of the show, Dennis, by Drew Matthews. So those are some of the main series actors. We got some other cameos and some other characters popping up. But let's start with episode 1, A Normal Amount of Rage. I thought this was a great introduction. The way they started, kicked into the fourth wall right away, and kind of gave her backstory on how she became a Hulk. And I thought it was paced well, and it was very entertaining. What do you guys think of the whole first episode and how it went?
I think it's interesting. I was listening to the Ringerverse episode 1 breakdown, episode 2 breakdown. They were pointing out that initially, and I'm not sure if this is confirmed or rumor, I understood it hearing the podcast is confirmed, that they actually weren't going to do a lot of that explaining how she became a Hulk until later. And it was actually a post-production call to bring it to the front of the season. And I think that was a very, very, very good call.
Yeah.
I think that the plot is engaging enough and the actors are doing a fantastic job. So I think it could have worked, but it was so smart to explain how we got here first. Because I think it really could have set us up for, not to fail, because I don't think it would have failed, but we kind of been like, why, how are we here? What's going on? Like having too many questions. So it was cool that they recognized that off the top and gave us that. And again, are doing it in such a fun, engaging way that we get to be on this crazy roller coaster with her.
And
kind of like that's how Moon Knight was in a way, kind of like, oh, this is cool, but where are we at?
And they acknowledge it with the first fourth wall or official fourth wall break in that episode, where she says, none of you are going to sit and enjoy this fun little legal comedy until we tell you about what's going on here. So let me bring you up to speed. And then, of course, how it opens, where you think she's talking to the camera, but she's actually talking to people in the room, kind of practicing her defense. I thought that was really clever as well.
Yeah, and kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but with the fourth wall, the way this show's been handling or bringing in her talking to the fourth wall has been, in my opinion, some perfect timing for plot lines, and it's not just there to be there. It's all right, this is actually very
intentional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was great. Then of course you see her with Bruce driving down, eating Cheetos with chopsticks. Brilliant move.
Don't want to get that Cheetle.
Yeah.
Some
says chisel, right?
I thought they call it Cheetle.
Oh, Don Cheadle. I know.
I would say CHEETLE, but I have to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's a thing.
Someone would make fun of me for eating my dried snap peas with chopsticks. But he's the someone.
Somebody in the room.
But it was something I started doing during COVID, especially while working, so I don't get it on my keyboard. Do you want to read it to us?
The term you're looking for is Cheetle. CHEETLE. Cheetle is now defined as that orange and red dust symbolic of true Cheetos fandom. Cheetos dust now has an official name as of January 13th, 2020.
Wow.
Nice. Well, that's good to know. But so we see them in the car having a little little cousin banter, and Bruce is back in his human form that we saw at the end of Shang-Chi. Yes. He's still he's not in a sling no more. Or is he?
He was in a sling in the car, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot because he had a sling, but then he also had an inhibitor that he kind of built to keep his Hulkness down. finding out that his human healing is kind of helping, but he can't transform into Hulk at this time. Then as they're driving and she's asking about Captain America, which is a ongoing joke in this episode.
Yes.
So, and it was something we've all, questioned about his experiences in life, I guess we could say. A Centauri communication ship pops right up and forces a crash. They fly off the cliff. Well, not really a cliff, a big hill. And she cuts herself on the way out. Then unloosens Bruce. His blood gets in her blood, and she's instantly a Hulk. Very cool scenes. I like that we didn't have to wait long to see her as a Hulk. And so, a couple times she, wakes up and she's at a bar and runs into what, again, going back to the Ringerverse, what the girls say, the best people you'll ever meet, drunk girls at the bar.
Right.
Because they're always willing to help out anybody in need or fellow ladies in need that are depressed in the bathroom. So, she then makes her way out. Some creeps are out there. She hulks up again. That gets tackled. Wakes up in Mexico, and we get a fully hulked up Bruce Banner back without his sling. And I mean, one thing I want to kind of bring up too is one of the big knocks before the show came out was how campy and weird that the CG looked. I think it looks fine. Personally, I don't, especially the Hulk. I mean, both Hulks.
The more I see it, the better I think it looks. I never really thought it was bad. And I, for one, have a huge problem with how much people complain about CGI. I mean, we are dealing with people who are making things that aren't real. So
yeah, exactly.
Where do we really find the space for argument? I can understand if, like, one person's making a dragon and another person's making a dragon, you could say whose dragon looks better. But until someone else has got CGI She-Hulk out there, this is the bar.
And truthfully, we've come a hell of a long way since The Rock and the Scorpion King. So I'm happy with what we got. I think it looks great. Jen looks great as a Hulk. Bruce looks great as a Hulk. I think it's Marvel. It's top notch. So then we get a nice little training montage on how she becomes a Hulk, and he's training her. He's got 15 years of Hulk training to show her, and then we pretty much find out that she's kind of a quickly advanced more. One of the coolest scenes I think in the whole training is the fact when Bruce realizes that she's not battling with somebody else.
Right.
In her mind it's her, it's Jennifer.
The two big differences is that she can come and go as she please, basically change between She-Hulk and Jennifer, and that when she is She-Hulk, she is Jennifer as well. She's not dealing with a raging maniac.
Yeah.
Although it seemed like initially that was what was going on when she first turned, when the blood got in her, and then when she turned at the bar. I kind of feel like we might see a cutscene from that at some point. I don't know where it would really make sense in the future, but as we were talking about it, I was like, I have a lot of questions on how she got from beating up guys outside the bar to Mexico. Like, did the Hulk show up? Did someone else show up who knew where the Hulk's secret hideout in Mexico was?
If you watch the scene again, you'll realize right before she's about to mess them up real bad, it's really quick, but you see a big figure tackle her.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so
I think
Hulk.
Yeah.
I think it's. I understood all of that to be kind of her reacting out of like fight or flight anxiety to what's happening, because she doesn't really understand in the same way that she's turning into the Hulk. Because obviously, she looks at her and she sees the green and she sees her reflection in the car. So understandably, she's like, what is happening to me? And so for me, watching those parts, what I was seeing was like, we're watching Jennifer respond a way I think any of us would respond, out of like anxiety and fear about what's happening to her. And then of course these men, catcalling and doing all of that terrible behavior that they're doing. So I think by the time we get to Mexico, she's in the driver's seat again. She's like, okay, now I understand. Like, I've seen Bruce, I understand like this Hulk thing. And so she's able to kind of get back on it. which they tie in and explain very well, which is like, this is something that she's had to do. I can attest to that being a female myself. Like, you do have to stay calm and stay in the driver's seat on things, even when someone is being horrible to you or saying certain things to you in a professional setting or wherever it may be. So I think they were trying to really draw that, like, Bruce didn't have to do those things because he does not encounter misogyny every day.
Yeah.
But for her, especially as a DA in a major city in the country, I anticipate she's facing this all the time. I almost wish that they had leaned into that a little bit more, because they said it broadly, like, as a woman, this happens all the time. And that's true. I think for the world building, it would have been helpful for us to hear how she faces it, like what it's like for her in the DA's office, because that might have helped us kind of see after she, not to get ahead of your plot recall, but when she does lose her job, it might help us kind of understand like the environments that she's navigating outside of the She-Hulk persona and how much that has changed now that she has the She-Hulk persona and is being given these different opportunities and getting very different treatment.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think ultimately, you know, where I was going with her, the two major things that were different between her and Bruce is, you know, at the very beginning, she did seem to have a bit of a different personality with the change. And then they go through the training montage and she's kind of like, I got this. I can do this already. I don't need your help. I think that seemed to me to be a little foreshadowing that in the future, she may again have trouble separating Jennifer and She-Hulk and potentially having that other person cloud things up for her. So maybe something I'm looking out for later in the series potentially.
And that's what my thing that was going to be like the thing she's dealing with the most in this season is just, you know, when I call it the Teen Wolf scenario, like when are you yourself, but when do you kind of like let yourself be you, or when do you let the Hulk come out?
Yeah.
You know, and where's the reaction to either one of those and the decisions you make on that.
Yeah.
But other than the big like montage and stuff, I mean, it was a pretty simple episode. It was just really entertaining. I thought everything in Mexico, when we're talking about Doctor Strange, how we want pizza balls at DCA. Now I want Bruce's bar somewhere at DCA.
Yeah, that would be cool.
With a little B&B and TS.
It could be a speakeasy at La Cava del Tequila in Walt Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Banner's Mexican speakeasy bar.
Yeah, so
that would be very cool.
But then their interactions. I like their Hulk fight when she was trying to leave. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was fun. And
the Hulk clap, that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
he's like adapted from him. It was like, no, I can do that. And then it was just like.
And that was one of a few callbacks to the Edward Norton Hulk, because that was one of his big moves when he was fighting Abomination.
I had forgot about that.
Yeah, so that was one of the first kind of little nods. We'll get to that, but then, so like I said, great montage, great, the whole thing of her deciding to go back. Then we fast forward back to the case, unless there's anything you guys want to bring up from.
No, I just, I know we already talked about the CGI, but I found myself in that first episode actually pretty impressed with the CGI during their training montage.
Yeah.
And I know there's been some conversations, especially about like VFX and the effects and the effort that it takes and people, the kind of culture that exists around it. So I have a lot of empathy for the time and effort put in by many, many people to give us the CGI that we did get. And just reflected on, like, I thought it looked really good, especially considering it was two major CGI characters. The whole thing is CGI. I would love to get some background video of Tatiana Maslany and Mark Ruffalo in the whole things and, like, what it actually felt like.
Behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see some, like, B-roll of them, like, fighting with each other, but in these, giant black things with the green and the blue and everything.
Well, I want to, before we kind of get to the end of this episode, I do want to shout out on IMDb, Malia Araya. She's listed as the on-set She-Hulk.
Ah.
So I don't have any, like, the picture, she looks like a tall woman, but it doesn't have anything on IMDb. I mean, but so it takes an army to to get all this
Yes.
stuff. So
Hopefully, she'll get her moment on Assembled.
yeah, absolutely.
I bet you she did a lot of important like placement and acting and all kinds of things.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of that with like Gallery and Assembled, really highlighting the stunt workers and stuff. So I think they will. So that was on IMDb. So very cool. But we get back to back in the case, and I forget what the actual case was, but she's doing her thing, and we find out early too that Nikki knows her secret. Because she's like, oh, you should just, rage out. And she's like, no, I can't. And anyways, then we are introduced to Titania. Titania, sorry. And she comes crashing in. And then, of course, Nikki's like, oh, this is your chance. Do it. And so we see her, she didn't want to mess up her suit because, it's a nice suit. But she takes her shoes off, hulks up, beats Titania. The way it's spelled, it kind of throws me off.
Yeah.
And saves the jurors from a bench being thrown, knocks her out. Then we get the ending, who are you? Jamie Walters, attorney at large. So,
yeah.
And roll credits. And I love when it's concept art and credits, going back to Mandalorian and a lot of the Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've had a cut, or not cut scene, but post-credit scene in every episode so far.
Yeah.
And this one's back on the beach, and it goes back to what we were talking about Captain America and his little experiences.
His virtue.
And great conversation, though. But
that was very cute.
Yeah, so I thought it was a very fun premiere episode. So.
Agreed.
Great episode, set the tone, gave us the background. With what Addie said earlier about how they changed kind of the lineup of it in post because they figured people would need to have that background. It makes me wonder how I would have received the show, especially at this point, 3 episodes in, not having had all that information.
Yeah.
And with fourth wall breaks and such. And I guess we'll never know. But I am appreciative that it went the way it did.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get to episode 2. This one's Superhuman Law. And this one pretty much takes place right after the events of the first one. The case was televised. So it starts off with a different news cuts from different news outlets from around LA. You got your regular LA style news, your LA entertainment news, even your news in Espanol. So, which I thought was pretty funny because that's LA. I mean, any of us that's been down there, that's what you get all the time. And we find out that's how she gets her name. She was like a Hulk, but a chick Hulk. You mean a She-Hulk? Yeah, that's what I mean. And we find out she doesn't like that name, obviously, because it is what it is. But they go to the lawyer bar, and her and Nikki. And Nikki's like, oh, they're cheering for you. They want to see the Hulk. And she obviously doesn't want to do it, but she does it, gives them what they want, gets handed drinks. Great scene. It's hilarious. And then, her boss shows up and tells them, well, we had to settle, what you did, but he wanted to talk to Jennifer, not She-Hulk, which I think was it the Ringerverse saying, shout out to Ringerverse, of course, but was it that one's, they were saying like you could tell where they cut the budget for Hulkness?
I thought that was interesting. So yes, I wish I could remember the 2 hosts because it's not our normal Midnight Boys.
It's a
or Mallory and Joe.
Yeah, Ben Lindbergh, I forget who the other.
Yeah, the other person was making his podcast interview. He did a great job. But it was interesting. I think it was Ben who asked the question, like, do you think there's any obvious places where they cut the CGI budget? And this was one of those examples, but I kind of disagreed with it because I thought that was a plot choice they made because he had hired Jen Walters, he had worked with Jen Walters, and he is firing Jen Walters. So I think he has every reason to ask her not to be in Hulk form, not only so he's speaking to the person that he knows, but also probably because there's probably some judgment going on about like how aggressive she might be and things like this. So as a safety measure as well. So they could be right, but in the moment I was like, I kind of wonder if that was a choice.
Well, and it pertained very much to obviously what was about to happen, because he comes to basically fire her because they had to settle because what they decided the jury was partial because she had just saved their lives.
Yeah.
But the other thing I thought was cool about making her switch is you got to see the effect of the alcohol hit her,
Yes.
because she had just slammed a bunch of Cosmos. And as we found out in the first episode, alcohol doesn't affect them when they're hulked up, but it does when they wake up with the Hulk-size hangover, as a non-hulked individual.
Yeah, instantly, pretty much.
So yeah, I did not listen to this podcast, and so I hadn't really thought about moments like that where they would budget cut or save CGI, but I thought that moment played specifically to a lot of points. So I would say probably not either.
Yeah, but Addie, what you said makes perfect sense, and I buy that more than that it being a budget cut. Great scene, yeah, she did the right thing morally, but businessly, is that even a word? Business wise, yeah, they got to let her go because she is a liability now.
They lost. Yeah. And that's the public defender's office, or the DA.
Yeah.
So it's, not quite the same as where we see her end up just a short while later.
Yeah, exactly. So
makes you wonder though, like if she would have not saved the jury, wouldn't have got thrown. I mean, I guess it wouldn't get thrown out. They'd just have another trial with another jury one day. But I'm sure that it wouldn't shine well on her. People thinking she could have done something. And,
absolutely,
we got to fire you because you didn't save those people.
Well, it's pretty much that damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
Exactly.
And so she's quickly looking for other jobs in different firms, getting turned down for that same reason. She's looking to be a costumed character at an amusement park towards the end. And there's a few things I did notice even before it's been brought up on different reaction shows and different things, but in the publications, there's something about like man with metal claws in a bar fight, so little rumor is, it's obviously people of Wolverine.
Yeah.
No, and a lot of those little news clips, the ticker on the bottom line.
Yeah.
One of the ones I think it was from a Screen Rant or Screen Crush video.
Screen Crush.
They finally made reference to something that people have been making memes about for months, and that is Tiamat, I believe, the celestial who is left frozen somewhere in the ocean on this planet, and how we've gone 4 movies since then, and not one mention has been made of this thing.
Hello.
And so on one of the little ticker, it said, giant being found, or sitting in the ocean. What's this all about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great one.
Marvel's listening. Marvel's always listening.
Marvel's paying attention.
Exactly. In 2 episodes in a row, we see an ad for the Iron Man 3's sneakers, nice. Which I would like to have those. Those look pretty awesome.
They got to be Christmas colors.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But then we see her again down on her luck with her family, which another show with a really strong family dynamic, which I think is really cool. It's really realistic. And her dad, I was like, this guy looks familiar. And I'm like, dude, then it hit me. I'm like, that's Larry, cousin Larry from Perfect Strangers.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
right off the bat, I was like, "This is amazing."
Yeah, I was going to do the Dance of Joy, but that was Balky. If we
could get a Balky cameo later on, oh my god, that would just tear the roof off.
Just aged ourselves, but I was excited. I was happy to see him. I thought that was a great.
Balky is a scroll.
Yeah. But
hashtag Balky is a scroll. Get it going.
Was that her cousin that they're like, you're not supposed to mention she was fired? Yes. But then he's like, hey, you got fired. So
yes, that's the cousin. And then he also immediately brags on his own promotion.
Yeah, congratulations, manager of Best Buy. Cool. Good for you.
I thought in that meal time conversation, it was interesting because you have family members calling her Jenny, which she very explicitly says, like, nobody calls me that. And there was another point where they said, we need to get your hair more like She-Hulk's. And as a curly-headed person, one of the first things that I recognized is that they loosen her hair as She-Hulk, and I'm assuming that's more in line with what I've seen also pictures of She-Hulk comic book. So I don't think that was, a beauty standard choice the Marvel creative team on the show was making. I think this is Tatiana Maslany's original hair, and then She-Hulk just has looser hair. So they inserted at this dinner table, they inserted a comment from one of her families that was like, we need to get your hair more like She-Hulk's. So I thought it was really cool. We're still seeing, and we'll see further in the next episode, how these conversations and a lot of the conversations about She-Hulk aren't about like her strength and her power as a superhero, but a lot of it is like beauty expectations, diet and eating regime, which again comes up later. But that was interesting and plays off of those beauty standards and the way that she's being treated differently as Hulk than Bruce was.
Yeah, and their dad asked her for help, but just to get her to escape from all the questioning, as dads do, they always have a good way of doing. And same thing, kind of reaffirmed her that, she got fired, but she did do the right thing.
Yeah.
And so then right after dinner, and there's a lot more to the conversation, but it was just a great father-daughter conversation. Especially thinking that you did wrong when you did right, even though it cost you your job, and stuff like that. So not job, but career. There's a big difference between a career and a job.
Yes.
And especially her career, which we find out is a 6-figure student loans, but that comes up again. But then she goes back to the lawyer bar, and then we are reintroduced to Holden Howling, the head of the firm, which pretty much got her fired because of the mistrial, the case.
Because she was arguing against them. He was the defendant.
Yeah.
Well, he was the
defendant, I think. No.
He was representing
the defendant. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't remember who the defendant was, unfortunately.
So he pretty much gives her a job opportunity because he tells her that. Is this where he actually mentioned the superhero division?
Not
yet?
till the next when she shows
not till she's already accepted it.
Yeah. So
he knew what he was doing.
But I love it because she's quick. She was quick to take the job, obviously, because she's been turned down. We don't know how long that montage when it could have been weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, being that even though he got her fired, he's offering her a job to ahead of the department, and she's trying to still act not tough, but like, oh well, if I do it, then I want to pick my own paralegal. And he's like, I don't care. Sure, do what you want. Obviously buys her a drink because she's on budget, so she couldn't have another one. So, then we see her next morning in the office, and that's when he says that he wants her to head the superhero division.
Yes.
Did I miss something? Okay.
Superhuman division.
Yeah. And by that, he wants She-Hulk to represent him, and he wants her to show up as She-Hulk all the time, even right on the spot. So.
And this is where I think maybe the CGI budget cut conversation comes in, because he says that we want you to be She-Hulk at all times. So she's She-Hulk in the office. However, they say later, maybe I'll hold until later when we get to that point. Okay, I've already started.
Go ahead.
When she's eventually going to visit Abomination, she's doing it as Jen. And when she's leaving the prison, she's still Jen. So there's never any point in the public eye that she is She-Hulk as a lawyer.
Yeah.
In that entire process, which is what he's saying he hired her for. So I was like, maybe that to me sounds a little bit more like a post-decision change.
Yeah.
Some of the CGI budget more than the earlier thing did.
So, yeah, that makes good sense. And so we see her walking through the office as She-Hulk, and then we get another fourth wall break where she's like pissed, basically, because like this is the only reason why they brought me is to do this, and at the time Holden's talking to her, and she totally doesn't know what he's saying. Then he asks her a question like, "So what do you think about that?" And What'd she say?
I think she says, I'm going to worry about what I just agreed to for the next 6 months or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, she said to him, she said, I'm agnostic. And he's like, oh, I just resaw this scene.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And she's like, then that's when she said that. I'm going to worry about what I just agreed to for the next
Yeah, exactly.
whatever.
We find Nikki already in the office, super excited. You know, they got windows, they got a desk, they got I forgot his name, but we get introduced to
Pug.
Hug.
Pug.
Yeah. Part of their team.
Mhm.
Gives them both a nice little welcome basket, and of course the biggest thing that you could get at any job is a little map for the best bathrooms to poop.
That's right.
You know, it's funny. I did not leave that scene understanding he was a lawyer, and I don't know if that was just on me.
I agree. No, I thought he was an
I thought he was
assistant.
like another paralegal. Yeah, I didn't. And there's nothing he says that makes you think that, but I don't think he's introduced as a lawyer.
Yeah, until we see him, fast forward in. It's okay. We could do this next episode.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And on the sidebar of best places to poop, one of the vloggers that we love watching, or I love watching, Disney Dan, they're in the process of compiling the ultimate compendium of restrooms at Disney World. It's called DizP.com. So if you're interested in knowing, ratings of all the best restrooms around Disney World, check out DizP, P-E-E. And also, I know I talked to Corey about in the future we will be doing the restrooms of the Disneyland Resort.
Yes, we've been talking about that for a long time. So
I'm excited for that. So look forward to that a couple months down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So then they get called into another meet, or she gets called into the Holden's office, and basically tells her about the case that he wants her to run, and it's Emil Blonsky, Abomination from the Incredible Hulk, reprised by Tim Roth brilliantly. I'm a big Tim Roth fan, especially with all the Tarantino movies and everything in between. So always fun seeing him show up, and you got that little cameo which comes back, but from Shang-Chi. It's a big part of the next 2 episodes. And she instantly has a conflict of interest, being the fact that Abomination tried to kill her cousin, Bruce. So, but he's like, well, if you do it or you got no job. So she goes to talk to him because this is a real thing, but because he knew the conflict of her relationship with Bruce. So it's a legal document that he had to sign saying he accepts the fact that there could be conflict because of all that. And so she goes to the prison, and like you mentioned before, she goes as She-Hulk, but they're like, you can't be like that here because you're a weapon, so you got to go back down. She comes Jennifer Walters and talks to Blonsky, and he's in that same prison that we see him, like I said, escape to in Shang-Chi, and he's a completely different person than that we were introduced to him in Incredible Hulk. He was a total Black Ops soldier hired by from the British by the U.S. government to track down. And we get more in detail about that. But he's completely reformed. He's super chill. He's almost like monk level. When we were introduced to him, he's got his pen pals, or what are
his soulmates?
His soulmates.
His better eighths.
Yeah, he's apologized to the surviving people that he hurt, and writing haikus to them. So
yes.
It was just really funky seeing him in that state. What do you guys think of that whole little introduction scene and the return of Tim Roth as Blonsky?
It makes me want to see a support group of reformed bad guys. Reminded me of Falcon and Winter Soldier with Bucky doing his making amends and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, agree. Big Tim Roth fan. He's very, very zen, very cool, Yeah.
And we get his side of the story, and his side actually holds water. Yeah. He was hired by the government to take care of a threat, which was Bruce at the time. and he becomes the hero, and he becomes a prisoner.
Yeah, he thought he was the good guy.
Yeah, and so it's a good case, I think.
I think so too. I don't trust Emil Blonsky. I don't trust him. I don't believe that he's reformed. I do believe he wrote those haikus because we get that great moment with Bruce Banner, and he's like, "I'm a completely different person now."
Yeah,
which is like a fun double take of like Smart Hulk and literally not being Ed Norton.
Yeah, and we even get the fourth wall with Jen looks at the camera. Ha!
Yeah.
I get that joke. I get that reference.
I do love Tim Roth. My dad's a big Quentin Tarantino fan, and so I'd seen a lot of those movies growing up, and so obviously Tim Roth is wonderful. I have seen 2008's Incredible Hulk like maybe once or twice, and the last time was
just once.
Early. Well, I think that's one of the ones I'd seen, but haven't seen it since 2020. So I will have to admit it's not, the plot isn't, front of mind for me. I did remember it was Tim Roth, but it was fun to kind of get some of the things that you need to know.
Was that a Fox release? We might be
Universal.
Universal. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought that was the same studio as Logan. I was like, maybe we'll get that one.
Yeah, that's why we can't get an official Hulk solo film.
We can't because it's still Universal.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna have to work it out, just like Sony and Spider-Man did.
Yeah, hopefully they can too. So, but then she, kind of okay. He makes some points. Maybe I will do the case, but wants Bruce's opinion or blessing first. Even though she's already made the decision,
right.
She's a strong woman. She can make her own decisions, but family, you want to make sure your family's okay with it. And so she calls him, and he's in a weird little room, and she's telling him stuff, but he could kind of see where she's going with it, I guess, because she mentioned I met with Blonsky and this, and he's trying to talk, but she keeps cutting him off, and he's like, no. Then like you said, he's like, no. He contacted me a couple years ago, even wrote me a haiku, but like I said, the funny joke, I'm a different guy now.
I'm a completely different guy.
Completely different person.
Completely different person.
Yeah. So that was a great fourth wall. But then we pan out, and he's in that ship headed. Yes. So back to.
We can only assume he's going back to Sakaar.
I was going to say Centaur, but I'm like, that was pretty. Oh. Yeah.
Yes. And there's been some interesting, I can't claim any of these or elaborate because I'm not as familiar, but a lot of what the podcasts are talking about our Planet Hulk and
World
War Hulk and these world build outs in the comics that have very interesting plot lines that we could be starting to thread out.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, nothing that hasn't been mentioned before, but like some of those storylines, he was there for 2 years? As a gladiator, and so top gladiators get kind of going back to Captain America's history and relations. Hulk was probably having people handed to him by a grand I was gonna say grandmaster.
Absolutely,
but he has a son,
girlfriend at some point.
Yeah, and he has a son, and so that's from World War Hulk, I believe.
Got it.
So there could be something with that if that's the issue where we're going. But I'm thinking we are done with Bruce for a while now.
Until they can figure it out with Universal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not just for this show, but maybe until the possibly Secret Wars, but that's a totally different thing. So, yeah, and that's pretty much. Oh, so she gets Bruce's blessing, calls Holden, like, hey, I'm going to take the job. Cool. Very awesome. You might want to check the news real quick, though. And then the news clip shows, Blonsky Abomination escaped in the past and fighting in underground fighting. And she was like, crap.
Yeah.
And that's where that episode ends. And then, again, we get I thought it was a great post-credit scene. She's back with her family doing muscle chores for everybody. So, as She-Hulk.
Very Louisa from Encanto.
Yeah, exactly.
From Encanto.
The way she was holding all those water bottles and everything. So.
Yeah, it's like the donkeys.
Yes.
And it kind of goes back to not all post-credit scenes are plot-driven, but they're just fun, like the ant playing the drums at the end of Ant-Man 2, stuff like that. So then we get to episode 3, The People versus Emil Blonsky, which I thought, and so far, real quick, episode 2, I thought was a good episode again.
Excellent.
Usually, second episodes there's a little bit of a fall off from the first one, and every show that I've seen so far, even Mandalorian. Even though as much as I love Mandalorian, like episode 2 with the egg was a little bit of a drop off from the first, but then it picks up after. But no, I thought this was, everything's been a pretty straight line of just well done episodes. So driven the stories.
I definitely agree. And I think the pacing has held up really well. Still very much like a sitcom taking us on this journey.
Yeah,
and it really does have that Ally McBeal vibe that was brought up before this show started.
Yes.
A good balance of, telling a complete story in each episode while still keeping a thread for the season and the overarching story. Because like you're saying, some of them could be just kind of that connective tissue to get from here to there, but not much is going on in that one. But each episode, at least so far, has had enough going on in the episode and moved it forward. Which, as we'll see at the end of this episode, continues.
Yeah. So, again, I really love this episode, but I forgot, and this is terrible as, talking on YouTube, where we began, because I just had such a crazy, wacky week. So if you guys want to kind of let us know where we started with this episode.
We just watched this episode, actually.
Perfect timing.
So now I'm trying to remember exactly how it opens as well.
Pretty sure it opened with the news reports talking about Emil Blonsky, almost like the previous episode. Yes. It picks up right where the last one dropped off.
Yeah, that's right.
So kind of catching us up about the case,
the prison break.
Yeah. Shoot, we literally just watched this episode.
Yeah, and Nikki is looking at Wong's LinkedIn page.
Yeah.
Yes,
because he mentioned Wong.
And there's that the scene in the car
where she's driving.
Yeah, that's after they talk about Wong.
Yeah. So
she's driving and talking to Nikki, and Nikki's pulled up the stuff about Wong.
There was something that happened before, but she's in the car and she's talking to Nikki, and Nikki's on her iPad trying to find Wong, and finds out that he was the Sorcerer Supreme. And it's funny, we were watching Screen Crush, shout out Ryan Airy. They got a screen grab of the iPad, and it actually showed that his jobs had been Sorcerer Supreme, librarian at Comertage, and then a Target sales associate. Nice. This is the third job on his LinkedIn profile.
That's awesome.
But then, we get this fourth wall break moment where she's like, I know, are excited for all these cameos. Like, just know it's not going to happen every week. And then she kind of backpedals a little bit. And again, keeping up the kind of fun pacing.
And another thing that was funny about that, Addie actually brought up that she wasn't looking at the road or holding the wheel.
Takes her hands off the wheel.
I was just about to say
Initially, I was like, oh, that's a messed up thing that they forgot about. And then I realized she drives a Tesla. So just changing times. She doesn't have to look at the road or hold on to the wheel. She can do fourth wall breaks here in 2022 because she has a Tesla and they have their self-driving mode.
See, I didn't even know that. I just thought it was just a full, fourth wall break, and I just thought it was just cool how she literally just stopped driving. I just thought that was part of the thing, but no, that because I was saying that was one of my favorite fourth wall breaks, being the fact is I don't think you're going to get cameos every week, even though you got Bruce, you got Blonsky, getting Wong. Just remember whose show this is.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, I was like, seriously thought they overlooked that, and then I was like, oh, I saw the big display screen. I was like, oh wait, she's got a Tesla.
I didn't even catch that. That's awesome. But then what? Because she's headed back to Blonsky's prison, right? Or was she headed back?
I think she's headed to Blonsky at the prison.
Because she's like, I thought you told me you didn't escape, and
then he explained everything. Yeah.
Which we all know. I was sitting there the whole time being like, I know that Wong just made the circle and dropped him in.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Or, again, this is an elaborate ruse.
Yeah.
Between the two of them. because I wouldn't be surprised if this was a little bit, like I said, I don't trust Emil Blonsky.
Yeah.
I trust Wong, but you know, if he's like, whatever, we're making some money and having a good time, like that, are the stakes as high for him? But she goes talks to him, and then she comes back, and that's when we are introduced to the
other story.
I was going to say this is the first one where we actually get
Dennis Bukowski, which is Charles Bukowski. Bukowski, that was just funny.
What?
Charles Bukowski is a famous poet.
Oh.
Who's
Well, I don't know if the first and last say the same, but I know Dennis is a character from the comics who's like her nemesis, and
yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is where we get the side storyline, and where he feels that he was wrongly lied to from what we find out is an elf that lives in New Asgard,
a light elf,
a shapeshifter,
light elf, yeah.
And who is she shapeshifting as?
Megan Thee Stallion.
Yes.
So real world stuff coming out.
Yes, which I love.
Yeah, and then we find out, that what's his name's a lawyer.
Pug.
That's
Pug,
yes.
I guess he's probably a paralegal or something, but it was kind of funny how Dennis goes around the room. I don't remember the name, but another female lawyer walks in, and he, makes his very, male remarks towards her. And she's like, "Oh, I'm glad I don't have to stay here." And then the other moment when, because they called Jennifer or She-Hulk in, and she's like, "Please tell me what's going on and why I am not involved," or whatever. And when they explain it to her, how she starts cackling, thinking that he actually thought he was dating Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah. And she's all like, "You thought she drove a Passat?"
You paid off her Volkswagen Passat, Megan Thee Stallion. I thought that was really funny. Unfortunately, again, I'm not going to remember the character. Again, Screen Crush, shout out Ryan Airy. He does point out that the other female lawyer is one of her principal rivals. Do you know more about that, Joey?
I have heard about that.
In the comics,
Yeah. Just a rival lawyer, but that, again, that she got to where she did from her skills, and Jennifer's only there because she's She-Hulk. So that's her whole MO, which even Jennifer mentioned that like they're only, that's been brought up on the show a couple of times, and
which is messed up because she is very, skilled. She went to school and everything. I thought that was an interesting, I guess, kind of dynamic going from episode 1 to 2, in that, she starts in episode 1 fighting to get people to see how, knowledgeable and skilled she is at what she does. And right when she's getting to the point where she's about to get that big win, she loses it because of what she did as She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And then she can't get a job, even though she's, smart and skilled. And then she ends up getting this job for none of the reasons, that she should, and all the reasons that she lost the previous job. So quite a whirlwind to go through in all that. And she seems to be taking it in stride so far.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how they lined that up in the walkthrough of The Office in episode 2, where she's like, "You think these guys ever had to try hard for their positions? And now they're thinking I'm only here because I'm She-Hulk." And she is put in an interesting position, like you said, because she is kind of only there because she's She-Hulk, not because she's not capable of doing it. She doesn't have the credentials to do the position. It's not because she is not qualified, but because they're kind of using her. And that is super unfortunate. So I'm curious to see how that relationship builds and how long she stays at the law firm.
Yeah. And there's, like I said, this is where that whole like Teen Wolf thing comes in. Like, when's enough? When are you? Eventually, eventually, aside from Teen Wolf, like in the comics, she realizes, and kind of like how Bruce has, I put Jennifer, or he's like, I put Bruce and the Hulk together, Smart Hulk, which we find out, she calls Smug Hulk, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
In the first episode. But then we get to the scene where I forget where we're actually at, but we get what we want to see. We see Wong return. Anytime we get Wong,
at that same scene where they are Dennis was in the room, because we were just talking about how why is no one phased when they see this
They're
guy
not phased
opening
at
up
all.
a portal and everything?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of reasoning it out to myself, and I was like, I guess everybody sees the world a little differently when half the planets disappeared and the other half lived through it and stuff. Like everybody, but I mean, you would have been slightly shocked or jumped. Like there was no reaction in any of the moments when Wong opens a portal. And
Yes, and they make such a point of it in Shang-Chi because he makes the portal, and then Simu Liu and Aquafina are like, gotta go, and it's like
exactly
the moment they're having at the table. So to have that, and then to see like literally no reaction of the people behind She-Hulk was a bit surprising.
Well, it is L.A. like we've mentioned a few times.
That's true. And I also made note of that while watching this episode again, because so much has gone on in New York. Like so much. Even, I mean, Westview is Westview, but I mean, like everything is centered around New York in the Marvel shows thus far. So kind of refreshing to have something going on in LA. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's why we've
supposed to be in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Which one?
Westview.
Yeah. And even we're like Civil War was upper New York, upper state. But it's like you said, it's refreshing seeing, San Francisco and Shang-Chi and LA on this one and stuff. So
yeah, the movies jump around a little bit, but I'm trying to think of where all the other shows take place.
New Jersey, Miss Marvel's in New Jersey.
Hawkeye's in New York. Loki, I guess, isn't really
like
in a place.
Planet.
Yeah.
We get Falcon Winter Soldier's kind of everywhere. So we get Louisiana, we get Germany, so
Madripoor.
Yeah.
Moon Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
London and Egypt.
Yeah. So I guess they moved around a lot, but overall the MCU takes place a lot in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that has a lot to do with when the comics were written. That was kind of the benchmark for, a big city and a superhero.
Marvel offices was in New York, so
yeah.
But we do get some kind of it was kind of confusing during Shang-Chi's, like, why is Wong fighting with Abomination? Or even, why is Wong the Supreme Sorcerer Supreme now? Well, we find out he had to fight him to train to become the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
So it's some little wonky storyline, but it's still there. And,
it's definitely after the fact, but they did a good job of putting it together and making it look like it was intentional.
Yeah. And I just like everybody's reaction to when he's like, all right, when Wong's like, all right, I'm done with the questions. I'm out. So then we get to the case. Jen feels like she's got a good case for Blonsky. Because Wong's like, yeah, I broke him out, but he chose to go back. But I'll be here for the case, for the actual hearing. So we get to the hearing, and we get a little bit more with Dennis and what's her name, the elf,
the
dark
shape-shifting Asgardian elf,
Raina, I think.
They have basically these two things are two trials going on at the same time.
Yeah. So, and it kind of a funny scene, but I mean, I would say the only thing I don't like about this show is and it's the character, but I mean, Dennis is a little too dirtbaggy. Where it's like, I mean, it makes sense, but it's like, okay, I'm kind of over his character in a way.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a good pundit, a good.
Yeah.
I think the goal is to have it be a character that everyone hates, even though you're always going to have people who love the villain or just choose. So
yeah,
it's interesting in most stuff, especially with like R ratings. It's easy to make a character of his style over the top. I think it's interesting how Marvel, kind of treading that PG-13 TVMA gray area, has to make this over the top, doucher type of guy without being too vulgar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. And so going to his case real quick, Pugs actually, after kind of back and forth with a defending lawyer and all that, actually gets Jennifer on the stand because she knows him. She's a colleague, and she's actually testifies how big of a dirtbag he is and how egotistic that he would actually think that
Megan Thee Stallion
would actually fall for him, and that's what kind of wins the case because And it was done real funny too. So, but then
yes, and I love that in this world, Megan Thee Stallion came without security, without any of, I don't know if she has like an entourage, but I would assume that she's got assistants and people and close friends and family with her. She's just by herself
with a fan,
with this fan, just like I came to Cheeto check on you.
There's only one Megan Thee Stallion.
You saw me. I cackled.
Yeah,
I cackled.
Then we get a cute little scene where after the judge makes his judgment, but then comes back on stage. He's like, you know what? I changed my mind. But then it's the elf again. I forget her name. So.
I think it's Raina.
Raina.
Yeah,
and even the lawyer's like, you're not helping my case.
I hope it is. It'd be fun to see her come back. I'm interested to go into the old doors and see if we see her in there at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
And we didn't mention it, but she did do that earlier in the scene where Dennis is talking to Pug. And after he leaves, he comes right back in the room. He's like, you know what? I'm going to drop the case. She again had shapeshifted. Yeah. And even when leaving the office, she shapeshifted Pug too. So
he says something wild, like something very wild to the poor women sitting out there. And he's like, no, I wouldn't do that. I do love a little nod that we get when she's in there as Dennis. You hear him complain when we first meet Dennis. You hear him complain to the lawyers as She-Hulk is walking in the room that there aren't any Red Bulls. He's like, what kind of office wouldn't stock Red Bulls here? And then when she sits down, when Raina or the light elf sits down as Dennis, wanting to drop the case, she takes a sip of the Red Bull and kind of has a reaction and keeps drinking it. Yeah. So it's another little nod that like this isn't actually him.
Yeah, and he caught on to that right away too. He's like,
"What?"
Left there. Right, but she's clearly trying it for the first time. Like the light elf has never had Red Bull, and obviously he would have had a lot of Red Bull.
Yeah. So we get back to Jennifer's case with Blonsky. She's got her 3 to 4 witnesses that are testifying. Yeah. 4 to help. We have a sad security guard. We have
librarian,
and then another guy.
Yeah, who was the third person?
But a doctor or something.
Kind of basically telling how nice of a guy Blonsky is, but still not enough to have him cleared from. And the whole time she's waiting for Wong, he's not showing up. We see his ladies.
Seven soulmates.
His seven soulmates. His better eights. That was my favorite line.
That was a good line.
Yeah.
We all have our better half. I have my better half here. So it was funny hearing him say my better eights.
Mm-hmm.
And did we see him transform before Wong came?
No, that was after it was kind of their deciding.
Yeah, because after Wong showed up and said it was all him, they're like, well, how do you know that he wasn't gonna rage out and
what
be under
happens
control?
If he just uncontrollably turns into Abomination again?
Then we find out
this same restraint that She-Hulk had.
Yeah.
And so I guess having been in prison this whole time, you could have learned it there, but it was interesting to see that he was able to come in and out of Abomination.
Yeah.
I really also loved in this section that we got to see Jen lawyer a lot more than we had in the other 3 episodes.
Yeah, well, with both of the 2 cases in this episode, and going back to episode 1 and her first time breaking the 4th wall, talking about how this is going to be a funny lawyer show. It really is a lawyer show. I haven't watched many nighttime lawyer dramas. I know there's been a ton of them over time, but this definitely, gave me vibes of pieces of those that I've seen in the past where you watch it and you're like, wow, you kind of learn something from the way they make their cases and prove points.
Yeah.
And they were doing that in both of the cases on this.
One of the great comedy lawyer shows that comes to my mind is Night Court, came up.
I remember it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah. And I think they're supposed to reboot it. Too. They're supposed to reboot it, I thought.
I had thought they were too. Or
I felt like what's her name? Bernadette.
Reunion show?
Yeah, Bernadette from Big Bang Theory was going to play the judge, I think.
Nice.
That might be a casualty of COVID, though. It might, maybe.
Yeah.
But so Wong comes, he testifies, said it was all him. But he actually was going to break him out. But Blonsky's like, no, I got to go back. And, so he allowed him to go back. But then Blonsky, like you guys said, he not only did he Hulk up Abomination, but he was still calm and collected as Abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And the only question I have is, how did he grow bat wing ears from the original movie?
They're like gill things?
Yeah.
I thought he had them before, but I don't know. Somewhere.
Yeah, maybe that was just to separate it from the Universal movie, but.
Oh, right. Yeah.
She wins the case. Everybody's happy.
There is something I noticed in this episode I hadn't seen in the other episodes. Jen, her clothes are really loose.
Yeah.
So even though we learned their spandex in episode 1, I just loved that she had the like bulky blazer. That I'm like, I was doing the math in the episode and I was like, I still feel like these would be really tight on She-Hulk because she's growing like 1.5 feet and putting on all this muscle. But we're gonna just let it be the magic of Marvel.
Spandex is your friend. From the moment Hulk said that, I knew that she then went out and had custom tailored suits made of spandex for every piece of her clothes.
Yeah. Yes. So case ends. It's happy. Then we get towards the end, and she's walking by herself, and a group of construction workers basically come up, and they got enhanced tools. One's a magic crowbar. One's like a mace. I mean, they're all, even a hard hat. These are characters from the comics that were actually.
Yeah, I just heard the name of them.
Wrecking Crew.
The
Wrecking Crew. And they do the dumb thing, and they piss her off basically, and she hulks up and pretty much takes care of them pretty quickly. One actually stabs her with a needle, but she's Hulk, so it busted the needle.
Needle crumbles,
and because we find them in their car after she kicks their butts, that somebody was hired to steal her blood. And
yes, there was a line
they didn't get her in time.
Boss is going to be angry.
Yeah.
So the plot thickens.
Yes.
Then of course we see another frame of her looking at her reflection again, which, like I said, in the Tesla.
I saw that again there at that point.
I thought that was really interesting because I think that if she had felt safe, she would have gone back to Jen. So for me in the moment, I was like, I think she is, maybe that this is like a moment in the reflection where she's starting to realize that she can't separate She-Hulk and Jen anymore. I might be wrong, and maybe immediately she's back in Jen form, but I was like, maybe that was a moment because she forgot that she could Hulk at first. Yeah. She's all like flustered, and she goes, oh yeah, which might have been for comedy, but there is still this moment of like, you can't really separate them because clearly you're going to be like, you're going to get attacked.
Well, and the cat's out of the bag too. I mean, with all the news reports and everything. So it brings back that conversation about heroes and anonymity. Of course, it was a big theme of Spider-Man No Way Home, with Peter Parker not wanting everyone to know that he was Spider-Man because of how much that changed his life and affected everything from his college admissions. So you're seeing that with Jennifer. I think ultimately, potentially from this, you're going to see her either make the decision just to live as She-Hulk all the time because you can't really separate the two, or something like that.
Well, I was going to tell Addie that you're right, because eventually she's always in She-Hulk form.
Yeah.
In most storylines, she even kind of drops a She-Hulk name, and she's still Jennifer, but she's still in her She-Hulkness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of as she was in that interview at the end of the episode too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about her diet and exercise routine.
Right.
Yeah. Not about her.
Earlier.
So like what did you think when all that, you brought it up before we got to this episode, but like, what was your opinion on, that real, those conversations going on like that?
For like the misogyny, like how they're talking about Jen.
Yeah.
I think that I felt like they had to address it. Like it would have been really hard for them unless they were going this completely separate route with the storyline. Like I think they would have had to address at some point how she's going to be treated differently than Bruce would have been treated. And they make it very clear that for a lot of it, it is her gender. That this is, you know, like she says, I don't want to do any interviews. And they're like, oh, this will be good press for you. So she does the interview. And immediately they're like, next, we're going to talk about diet and exercise. It reminds me of actors, you know, when there's one interview, I don't remember any of the context, but Scarlett Johansson, I think it was for one of the Iron Man movies or early Marvel. And they're talking to her about like, if she wants to have kids or like about fashion, like they're asking all the other male actors actual questions about the movie and about their characters. And then they're asking her something.
It famously was talking about her skin tight wardrobe or something.
Oh, you're right.
It's like, why are you asking me about my outfit? What is that?
It might have been the first Avengers, I think.
I think you're right. And she makes a very valid point. Like, yes, her outfit is skin tight. That was a costume design. We could have a separate conversation about how women are depicted and what Marvel has admitted back then were their motivations. But I think it was just really smart of them to do it. And I think they did it really well. So it's not like this, as much as they would have every right to be complaining about it. We're getting it in the structural way of like, this is another thing she has to deal with, while she's also still dealing with everything else.
And I think we didn't really mention it, but at one point early in the episode, I think it's when, you know, they're showing a montage at the beginning, you're kind of seeing a lot of stuff that we're seeing online, you know, in reference to female superheroes and superhero movies. You see someone comment about like She-Hulk, how she just took come up with your own hero name or whatever, be more original. They mentioned Me Too and, you know, like why everything's got to be stolen from like the male side. So just all these kind of off-base troll comments on the internet.
Why does everything have to be female? It's like, she is female.
Which this show is getting a lot of crap on that. At the same time, getting a lot of love, and it's getting a lot of crap from people that don't know the character, basically. And just an excuse, and I was going to bring it up, but I'm like, I don't want to bring it up because I don't bring light to it. Just a bunch of idiots out there. But one thing I want to mention, though, how Marvel's so good at, even this is listed as the Marvel comedy, and even the Marvel dramas or Marvel whatever, but they're always really good at throwing in real world issues.
Yeah.
And not like in a, what I say, preachy way. They like everything's well done. And this is another exception of that being, we knew this was going to be a comedy, but they knew they were going to probably get a lot of backlash from people that aren't familiar with the character. And because the first thing people say, like, oh, they're stealing from Deadpool with the fourth wall. She-Hulk broke fourth walls years before Deadpool did in the comics. And the show's, I mean, doing everything great in my opinion with that. So
yeah.
But yeah, but that's where that show ends. But we get probably out of the three the funnest post-credit scene. Back in her office.
So fun.
Go ahead.
Go. Just that she's signing Megan Thee Stallion as a client, and Megan's teaching her how to twerk. And at the very end, she says, "I would kill for you," and Megan's like, "Okay, slow down." I thought that was funny.
So. And of course, the internet has blown up with this. Shout out to Sean from Walt's Apartment. He sent us a video and a thread with that scene. But then the song is still playing, and it's all the other Avengers like on behind the scenes footage of them dancing on set and doing different dances. I'll send it to you guys after.
That's awesome.
It's hilarious. And of course, it starts off with She-Hulk, but Iron Man, Scarlet Witch. I mean, everybody's just kind of on set, dancing and just goofing around and with the song going. It's great. So
did you see the pictures that they released of Tatiana Maslany in the CGI stuff with Megan Thee Stallion on, like, actually recording, not with any of the CGI overlay, just the two of them? It's just stills of them like dancing on scene.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I'll make sure we'll send those to you too. I don't know where I saw them, but I will look.
And I can't wait. Again, another thing. I mean, we're not even halfway done. I'm like, I can't wait to see what we're going to get on the Assembled.
Yes.
When the season ends. But yeah, we're three. That's it for the first 3 episodes. We're 3 episodes in. Like I said, I'm enjoying the hell out of the show. we were joking around, but I do want to see a She-Hulk at Avengers Campus somewhere that they can do it.
I mean, I'd be very surprised if they didn't. I mean, especially, I'm pretty sure every single Disney Plus show has had a character show up at Avengers Campus, starting with Wanda, right?
Yeah.
Falcon as Captain America showed up there. Loki,
Moon Knight,
different Lokis.
Kate Bishop.
We had Kate Bishop. We had Miss Marvel. We even had Zombie Captain America from What If.
Yeah.
So I would be very surprised if we didn't get She-Hulk.
And damn it, we're about time. We need Wong at DCA too.
And that was one, I think, I don't know if it was before we were recording, but one of the either podcasts or YouTube vlogs I watch pays attention to casting calls that Disney does for characters. A couple months ago, they were casting for Wong. I think this was around when Doctor Strange came out. And so I think I was mentioning earlier that, we'd get a casting call for like a 6'5" or above woman for She-Hulk. So
yeah, absolutely. And kind of sticking with the whole Shang-Chi thing. I saw
you can have her as Jennifer Walters too.
I was about to say.
Yeah. And just have her like suit kind of shredded up.
Wouldn't it be great if they just had her like waiting to see people like spill their Coke, and then she runs over to give her card, be like, Jennifer Walters, do you need to sue the Disneyland Resort for this?
Well, now that I think of it, the presence She-Hulk does have at DCA is the bench that's on the poster. It's at the park.
Oh, that's cool.
And you could call that number the 1-8
Enterprise bench that people were all mad about, right?
Yeah. So maybe that's what they just slid it in, but you could call the number 877 She-Hulk, and there's actually a recording, I guess, for the Jennifer Walters of her firm. I saw, I don't know, I think it was on Instagram or TikTok real quick, and I think it was Disney Parks, but they had it was Shang-Chi talking to a young lady in ALS, and it was real. Every time they show something like that, I'm like, you can't help but get a little tear in your eye.
Yeah.
And he was like, slow down. I haven't done it in a long time, but I'm learning. So she was going slow, and she's like, all right, I'll come back. He's like, I'm going to practice though. And the girl was like, okay, I'll come back in a few months and see how you're doing and stuff. But oh man, it's such a tender. The Disney face characters sometimes just go above and beyond. I've seen a couple princesses do it. I saw Pluto do it one time, and that one was awesome because the girl was she was in tears, like surprised that he even. I can imagine sorry to ruin the magic, but to sign with the gloves, I can imagine how difficult that would be. But super cool. And of course, go ahead.
Oh, this is so unrelated. It's quite different actually than what you're sharing. But forever, my favorite character interaction will be. We were watching this Justin Scarred video from years ago. He went to Disneyland Paris. Do you remember this? Goofy at the brunch. They went to brunch at a hotel in Disneyland Paris. And
Tippy the Goof.
And Goofy comes up to them. I think it was Goofy. And they are, eating their food and whatever. And they start interacting with him. And he starts playing with stuff on the table. And he's like making stacks and piles and things. And then he knocks them over, so it makes this giant mess, and he just kind of leaves. It was very fun.
That's on brand for Goofy, though.
It's very on brand for Goofy. I thought the again, not to spoil the magic, but I thought it was just a very funny moment, and I just really love that it was on camera. And we got to see it from, thousands of miles away, weeks or months later.
See, but if that was us there eating too, I wouldn't even be mad. I'd be like, oh, classic Goofy.
Oh my God, that would have been awesome.
Or that's awesome. But that is it for our first 3 episodes. We will be back in a few weeks once 4, 5, and 6 are released. 4, it's funny that they advertise it this way, but part of Disney Plus Day coming up later this week on Thursday. I will be at Disneyland that day, so
go early, get in early.
I'm trying. I'm staying I'm driving Wednesday night, and probably taking a nap, a few hours sleep at Grapevine, the rest stop up there, then
Yeah.
Go to park my car at the hotel and meet Walt's apartment for a rope drop.
Very cool.
It's going to be interesting to see how many people aren't Disney Plus subscribers, because that's the whole thing. You're getting in an extra half hour early on Disney Plus Day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would be surprised if they didn't have people trying to sell Disney Plus subscriptions in the what do we call it? The Esplanade.
Yeah.
Like, hey, want to go into Disneyland early? Just sign up for Disney Plus.
Yeah. So, and hopefully they have a thing where those of us that signed up for it at the last D23, we bought it in advance for the 3 years.
Mm.
So hopefully they have a little thing where you kind of grandfathered in, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna have a pretty big presence at D23.
Yeah, can't wait. And it'll be cool to see the blue carpet. So I'm going for a rope drop, and I'm going to try to take off a little bit around 10 or 11 to hopefully, if they have any in stock still, the Monstro Tiki mug. So
nice.
Fingers crossed. But do you guys have any? It's hard to predict because there's really. I like that the show is kind of its own show in the MCU, not like probably directly has any. Oh, where's this going to tie in with, Blade or something? But
yeah,
anything you guys in particular want to see, or are you just kind of going along for the ride? Or
I think with all the cameos that we've already got and the one that we know is still coming, I think there's going to be another, if not just more. I don't want to call it cameos as much as I want to call it characters that we have either already seen in the MCU or are big characters from the comic books that are going to make a splash when they appear. But I just have a feeling there's going to be someone else that we're not already aware of coming in to this show. But I think that, like I mentioned before, the balance of having each episode be a great standalone episode while also keeping the thread between the series, and then just how little time passes in between each episode. I think that's made for a good timeline. So I'm excited to see that continue.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to much of the same. I'm interested to see where some of these things like that Stranger Boss, the Wrecking Crew, shout out Screen Crush Ryan Airy, maybe this is a Kingpin, so maybe we're looping back to other things we've already learned in the shows. But I'm also kind of interested. We're hearing a lot of talk about Asgardians in this series, and of course Thor: Love and Thunder just came out, so we know that they are settled on Earth. So I'm curious if they are headed anywhere with what it's like to have, because yes, Asgard is on Earth now, but we haven't really explored if there's any ramifications of that. And if you have folks like shape-shifting elves that are part of Asgard, that's not something that necessarily exists on the planet. I don't know much about Marvel lore, so maybe I'm wrong, but it's kind of fun to see okay, well, I wonder where they're headed, or if we're just going to kind of get Asgardians randomly throughout different things. Plus, where did the Wrecking Crew have Asgardian constructors to rob? Are they in LA now? I thought they were in Norway. Anyways.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
I, of course, a character we were introduced to last year, I think we might possibly see Val again. Blonsky, Abomination, becomes part of the Thunderbolt group. And especially now, being that is a high profile case, being that he can control it, he seemed like somebody that she would go after.
Uh-huh.
And then shout out real quick to Diz Insider. They recently had a article about talks about Florence Pugh
casting of the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, but how Elena is going probably the head Thunderbolt, basically. So she's going to kind of be headlining that movie.
Yeah, I saw the article was talking about some of the official casting, including Anthony Ramos from Hamilton, and he's going to be playing the Red Hood. I believe that's in Ironheart or Armor Wars.
There's photos.
Yeah, there's
of him
photos
and
of
Riri Williams
Yeah.
And I mean, they look cool and I like that. Well, it's a totally different podcast. We got to wind down, but seeing her in like a bulky iron outfit again before the more nanotech one, I'm glad they're kind of going that way. So can't wait to see stuff in Black Panther.
That's
With
right.
her. That's down that's down, not too far away, but
no, not too far.
But cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Can't wait to talk to you again about She-Hulk. I'll have a better graphic here. You guys in the YouTubeverse, let us know what your thoughts are on She-Hulk. Any upcoming Marvels. We're almost at the end of Phase 4. Once this is out, then again, Black Panther Wakanda Forever will be the bookend of that. So, or not the bookend, but the end.
The end.
End of Phase 4.
So is it announced what the beginning of Phase 5 is? Is that
Yeah, it's Ant-Man.
Ant-Man in like February or March or something?
Yeah, I think it's March or yeah.
Because
I don't think there's
March, and then I think the Marvels is in May or June.
Something like that. Yeah. Or Guardians is in May. Guardians has
three of them coming out by June. Ant-Man, Guardians, and the Marvels.
Yeah.
And then I remember they reshuffled. I think the Marvels was supposed to be first and Ant-Man, but then they reshuffled it. So Ant-Man's coming first and the Marvels is later on.
Yeah.
I remember I'm ready to see more Jonathan Majors.
Yeah. No, that's what I was saying. I think a lot of the Marvel fans are like, we know Kane's coming. You guys announced that 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not start off big? I think Marvel needs it. I haven't had a big issue, as a lot of people have, with the recent Marvel movies, saying like, where's it going? That they're not top tier, but they're still Marvel and they're still entertaining. But they need that big, like, okay, here's Kang the Conqueror. Here's where we're going in this this new saga. So
I know we've both said this before when talking about other stuff, but I just think it's a case of, and this a lot from Star Wars fandom. You're never going to make everyone happy. You're never really going to please people, especially because every time you put something new out, you have more in your rear view and more things to draw reference from and base it on. So now that we're living in this post-Endgame team-up world, seeing a movie that doesn't have 30 superheroes in it, it's like, well, what's the point? Where's it going?
Yeah.
I'm trying to teleport back to, was it 2010 when it was Iron Man?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had no expectation. You were just happy to have Iron Man. And now it's like, well, what else do you got for me? So.
And you know what? I'm selfish. As long as I like it, that's all I care about.
Well, that's why I've been really excited about new characters that I'm not as familiar with, because I'm not as worried about where it's going to connect or, where everyone else is as I am learning about the story of this individual character.
And I'm excited for how much world building they're doing, because we keep hearing all of these exciting villains and these potential areas to go, and a lot of, from what I'm understanding, that I'm getting from the internet, these bigger worlds. Plus, they kind of have to explain the multiverse to us and all the possible things that can happen. So personally, I'm grateful that we are getting it in bits and chunks, and we're getting this story, we're meeting this character. I'm curious to see, with all of these introductions happening right now, how and when we're going to get them to come together. Like, was the Hawkeye show just for fun, just to introduce Kate? Or does Hawkeye, is he going to show up again later? You know what I'm saying? How are these things, where's She-Hulk going to come in later? How are we kind of connecting to the quote unquote Infinity War Endgame of these phases? And
this will annoy some of our friends at Marvel Tribe, but were Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, and She-Hulk possibly West Coast Avengers?
Yeah, I mean,
but there's it's limitless what they can do. And I was saying with Kevin Feige, nothing is done on purpose, or nothing's done by accident.
That's right.
Everything's done on purpose. So
yeah, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time.
Well, cool. So I think the next time before we have our next She-Hulk show, I will be posting some videos from D23.
Woo!
And with me at D23 will be somebody that hasn't been around for a long time, but might be showing up briefly, is our good friend the Hatbox Goat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so stay tuned for me and Goat. What are you excited for, Goat? Okay, right on. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but he's kind of
I
crazy.
did.
Oh yeah.
I think he said that there's a party going down at Rad Brewing on September
There,
10th.
Whoa.
I didn't know you were much for beer, Goat.
he drinks everything. All right, see you later. So yeah, what he said was we'll be doing a live podcast with Walt's Apartment, Diz Insider, and the Off Market Mouse at our good friends Rad Beer Company in Anaheim off Lewis Street, 1301 Lewis Street. Podcast will be at 8 to 9 ish. If you're in the area, even if you're not at the expo, we will be doing a happy hour hangout at 7, and then going to the podcast, then more stuff, more drinks after. So, and if you're not at D23, we will be live streaming it here on Facebook, on Twitch. Walt's Apartment will be live streaming it. Diz Insider, I believe, will be. So there's not a spot where you won't be able to see it. We'll be breaking down Friday and Saturday of the expo and kind of what we're hoping and anticipating to see at the Parks panel and the rest of Sunday. So come and check it out. It'll be a lot of fun. But thank you guys. Anything you want to close with before we go? Or
I just want to thank you both for having me on, and,
Of course.
and to everyone listening, thanks for letting me in and chatting it up. And I anticipate you might want to tell them or remind them about where we're going.
They know where we're going. We keep
Oh,
it told. But yeah, we're getting ready to go to Disney World. We're like 23 days out.
23 days.
Cannot wait.
Very excited.
yeah, absolutely. I always love having you on the show, Addie. And I figure why not? Especially, talking about She-Hulk, talking about your trip.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot of you guys in October with Disney backgrounds in the
Yes,
background.
All y'all here already subscribed to Disney Universe TV. You know where it's at. We'll be posting some videos from the trip up here.
Heck yeah.
And of course, make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. We'll be very active on Instagram while we're out there. So if you want to follow along for 2 whole weeks at the most magical place on earth, Disney Universe podcast, Callie Curly Couple.
That's right.
Check us out. We'll be posting a bunch.
Yes,
And,
we will.
and what's the next movie that you guys got to put in your story, like when you did Country Bears? Because that was awesome.
We have not been counting. We had initially intended to watch 50 movies specifically pertaining to like Disney World, and then it was kind of hard, so I threw Universal in there too because we will have a Universal day. But we have nowhere been close to keeping up with that number. I did say earlier that I wanted to watch Swiss Family Robinson.
Oh.
I kept trying to say Swedish
Sasquatch?
House Mafia. Swedish House Mafia. You know that old movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Swiss Family Robinson, as they do still have the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse in Florida. God knows for how much longer. Hopefully it lasts 23 days.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Pandora, so we are trying to do that.
Oh, we got a ton. I had already said we probably won't watch Avatar tonight.
Pandora, is that what's called?
Avatar.
I was like, that doesn't sound right. That's an app, and that's the world, though.
Yeah, they're on.
I have a lot of learning to do.
Yeah. But anyway, we got a ton of movies. Follow Callie Curly Couple. Next time we watch one, we will be doing our live reactions as we watch the movies.
On the story.
Always
In
a
the
good
story.
time.
Because that was great. So
Thank
cool.
you.
Well,
Thank
hopefully
you.
we live local together, but man, it's been so crazy. Hopefully you can hang out soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see all, everything you're doing at D23.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we can get together and do some beer stuff and everything the weekend after.
Yeah, and we're talking about the live podcast, and I'm going to end with this. We're talking about the live podcast, but we also might be going live maybe on Instagram
Sunday.
Sunday.
The 11th. Yeah.
the 11th after the expo, so we could talk about what's announced at the parks. And I will be at the 40th anniversary Tron panel. I got the panels I wanted,
Woo!
most of the ones I wanted, enough to make me happy. I got the Society of Explorers and Adventurer panel on Friday. I got the Marvel Lucasfilm 20th Century panel on Saturday, and like I said, the Tron panel. But I will be getting in line at 5 a.m. for the parks panel.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Amazing.
tell us all the Easter eggs about SEA that we can find in Skipper Canteen, because that's our first reservation when we get to Disney World.
The whole restaurant is an Easter egg.
I know,
tell you that.
basically.
We're so excited.
I've seen little bits in different rooms and stuff.
And little preview. Again, I said this 3 times, and I will definitely end on this one. But I am already going to put a video together of my Disneyland trip of SEA locations at Disneyland in Anaheim. There are a
You're gonna
few
do that on this trip?
on this trip, yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be a lot of fun. But
Right on.
thank you guys for watching this. Let us know what you think about She-Hulk and D23. Why not? And Disney World. If there's anywhere Addie and Alex need to check out that you enjoy,
Yes.
let us know. Message us in our socials. And
Yeah, next time we'll put an Instagram post up before we record for episodes 3 or 4 through 6, so that you guys can share your reactions of the series so far, and we can talk about them as well.
yeah, and congratulations on able to see Fantasmic at Disney World. So
We're hoping. We still haven't got that date, but
that's right. That's right.
being that
But-
we're there for 2 weeks, I'm thinking it'll fall sometime while we're there.
We hope.
Awesome. But everybody, you guys have a good night or day or afternoon wherever you're watching this video, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.